Water was survival, not convenience, during the Great Depression. If you want to understand survival under pressure, start with water. During the Great Depression, water management was not an abstract concern or a lifestyle choice. It was daily discipline shaped by scarcity, broken infrastructure, drought and poverty. Families survived not because they had more resources, but because they treated water as a finite tool that had to be stretched, reused, protected and accounted for. What follows isn't nostalgia or folk wisdom. It's a working system refined by necessity, and it holds real value for anyone thinking seriously about long-term survival under constrained conditions. Every drop was assigned a purpose before it was ever used. Depression-era households did not use water casually. Before a bucket was filled or a pump was worked, people already knew how that water would be used from start to finish. Clean water was reserved first for drinking and cooking. The same water, once cooled or dirtied, would then be reassigned to washing dishes, scrubbing floors, or laundering clothes. Finally, that same water often ended its life watering gardens or soaking livestock feed. Nothing was wasted because nothing was unplanned. You can apply this today by thinking in cycles instead of single uses. If you draw water for cooking pasta, that starchy water can later be cooled and used for washing dishes or poured into a garden bed. In a grid-down scenario, this habit alone can cut water demand by half without reducing hygiene or food output. Hand-washing, bathing and laundry were structured events, not daily routines. Modern expectations around water use simply did not exist. Bathing was not a daily act, but a scheduled one. Families bathed once or twice a week, often sharing bathwater in order of cleanliness. Laundry followed the same logic. Clothes were worn longer, aired out between uses, spot-cleaned when possible, and washed only when truly necessary. The technique mattered. Clothes were soaked, scrubbed, wrung and rinsed in stages using the same water as long as it remained effective. Soap was used sparingly because soap itself required water to rinse away. Today, anyone practicing off-grid living or emergency preparedness can learn from this by adopting wash cycles based on need rather than habit, and by mastering manual washing techniques that require gallons instead of tens of gallons. Rainwater harvesting was simple, local and constant. Depression-era families did not wait for ideal systems. Barrels were placed under roof edges. Tin roofs were favoured because they shed water cleanly. Gutters were improvised from scrap metal or carved wood. Water was strained through cloth to remove debris and stored in shaded containers to slow algae growth. This wasn't theoretical sustainability. It was a direct response to drought and failing wells, especially during the Dust Bowl years. If you live in a modern home, you can replicate this on a small scale by collecting rainwater for non-potable uses such as flushing, cleaning or gardening. In survival conditions, this habit becomes critical redundancy when wells dry or pumps fail. Gardens were designed around water scarcity, not abundance. Great Depression gardens were not watered daily. Crops were chosen for resilience. Soil was heavily mulched to reduce evaporation. Rows were spaced to allow roots to seek deeper moisture rather than relying on surface watering. Grey water was directed carefully to plants that could tolerate it, such as corn, squash, or fruit trees. The lesson here is efficiency through design. Instead of watering everything lightly and often, they watered deeply and rarely. This encouraged strong root systems and reduced overall consumption. Applying this today means, well, rethinking how food production works under limited water availability, especially in dry climates or emergency conditions. Water storage was layered, not centralized. Families rarely relied on a single water source. Wells, rain barrels, springs, and hauled water all existed in parallel. Containers were sealed, rotated, and cleaned because, honestly, contamination could mean illness with no access to medical care. The practice of storing water in multiple locations reduced the risk of total loss. If one barrel cracked or one well went dry, there were backups. Modern survival planning actually mirrors this logic. Never rely on a single tank, pipe or source. Spread risk the way Depression families did, quietly and methodically. Children were trained early to respect water through responsibility. Water conservation wasn't taught through lectures. It was taught through chores. Children hauled water, pumped wells, and cleaned barrels. They felt the labour involved, and that physical cost created respect. You didn't leave a tap running if you knew what it took to refill a bucket. For modern families interested in preparedness, this mindset can still be taught. Involving younger people in manual water tasks, even temporarily, builds understanding that no rule or warning sign ever will. Wastewater was treated as a resource, not a problem. Grey water reuse was normal. Dishwater fed chickens or soaked feed. Laundry water was reused for cleaning floors or outdoor work. Nothing went straight to the ground without a reason. This approach required awareness of what went into the water in the first place. Harsh chemicals were avoided because they limited reuse. Soap choices mattered. That lesson remains relevant today for anyone planning long-term off-grid survival or low-resource living. What made this system work was discipline, not technology. The Great Depression way of using water efficiently didn't rely on innovation. It relied on habits reinforced daily. People remembered how much water was left. They noticed changes in taste, clarity, and smell. They adjusted immediately when conditions changed. This is the most valuable lesson. Technology can fail. Discipline scales. If you build habits that treat water as finite, you will adapt faster than someone relying on equipment alone. If you found this breakdown useful and want more historically grounded survival knowledge that actually works under pressure, subscribe to Battlefield of Survival. Share this with fellow history buffs and survivalists who care about learning the hard lessons the past already paid for.